The grand halls of Buckingham Palace echoed with an unusual silence that autumn morning. Princess Anna walked slowly through the corridors she had known since childhood, her footsteps muffled by the thick Persian carpets that lined the marble floors. The weight of what she carried in her hands seemed heavier than any crown jewel she had ever worn. In her delicate fingers, she held a sealed envelope bearing the royal seal and her late father's distinctive handwriting. The letter had been discovered just 3 days earlier, hidden away in a secret compartment of the king's private study. Anna had been the one to find it, while helping to sort through his personal belongings, a task that the family had been putting off for months since his passing. The discovery had shaken her to her core. The letter was addressed to no one in particular, but its contents made it clear that it was meant for his children. More specifically, it was meant for William and Henry, the two princes who had been so deeply affected by their father's death. Anna knew that what she was about to share would change everything between the brothers, who had been growing more distant with each passing month. As she made her way to the blue drawing room where she had asked both princes to meet her, Anna's mind wandered back to the last conversation she had with their father. It was just 2 weeks before he passed away, and he had seemed unusually reflective, almost as if he knew his time was running short. He had spoken about legacy, about the importance of family unity, and about secrets that sometimes needed to be revealed for the greater good. The blue drawing room was bathed in soft morning light when Anna arrived. She chose to sit in the chair that had always been her father's favorite, hoping it would give her the strength she needed for what was about to unfold. The room held so many memories of family gatherings, heated discussions about royal duties, and quiet moments of understanding between father and children. William arrived first, as was typical of his punctual nature. His face bore the strain that had become increasingly apparent since their father's death. The responsibilities of being next in line to the throne had weighed heavily on him, and the grief had only added to that burden. He greeted Anna with a warm but tired smile, settling into the chair across from her. "You sounded quite serious on the phone," William said, his voice carrying a note of concern. "Is everything all right? Has something happened with the estate arrangements?" Anna shook her head, her fingers unconsciously tightening around the envelope. "Nothing like that, William. But there is something important we need to discuss. I've asked Henry to join us as well." As if summoned by her words, Henry appeared in the doorway. His relationship with the family had been strained for some time, particularly with William, and Anna could see the hesitation in his eyes as he entered the room. The brothers exchanged a brief nod of acknowledgement, but the tension between them was palpable. Henry took a seat near the window, maintaining some distance from both his sister and brother. "Anna, I hope this is important. I have other commitments today, and frankly, I wasn't sure if I should even come." The pain in his voice was evident, and Anna's heart ached for both of her brothers. The family that had once been so close was now fractured by misunderstandings, different life choices, and the pressures of royal life. She knew that what she was about to share could either heal these wounds or deepen them further. "It is important, Henry, more important than you might imagine," Anna said softly. 3 days ago, while going through Father's study, I found something. Something he had hidden away, something he wanted us to find after he was gone." She held up the envelope, and both princes immediately noticed their father's handwriting on the front. The sight of those familiar letters, penned by a hand they would never see again, brought an immediate change to the atmosphere in the room. William leaned forward in his chair, while Henry's defensive posture softened slightly. "What does it say?" William asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Anna looked between her two brothers, knowing that once she opened this letter and shared its contents, there would be no going back. "Before I read this to you both, I need you to understand something. Father wrote this knowing that we would find it after his death. He specifically mentions both of you by name, and he talks about something that he says he should have told you years ago." Henry shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Anna, just read it. Whatever it is, we can handle it." But Anna could see the uncertainty in his eyes, the same uncertainty that was reflected in William's expression. She carefully opened the envelope, unfolding the letter with trembling hands. Her father's neat handwriting filled 2 full pages, and as she began to read silently, her own eyes filled with tears. "My dearest children," she began, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "If you are reading this letter, then I am no longer with you, and you have discovered the hiding place I created in my study. I always hoped that you might find this someday, though I wished it would not be under these circumstances." William and Henry both sat in complete silence, hanging on every word as Anna continued reading their father's final message to them. "There are things I should have told you both while I was alive, conversations we should have had, and truths that I kept hidden because I believed I was protecting you. But as I write this, knowing that my time may be shorter than any of us would like, I realize that some secrets do more harm than good when they are kept." Anna paused, looking up at her brothers. Both men were completely focused on her words, and she could see that they were beginning to understand that this was not just a sentimental farewell letter. This was something much deeper, something that their father had struggled with for years. "The burden of the crown is heavy," Anna continued reading, "but the burden of family secrets is sometimes even heavier. William, my son, you have always carried yourself with the dignity and sense of duty that the crown requires. You have never questioned the path that was set before you, and you have embraced your destiny with grace and strength." William's eyes glistened with unshed tears at these words of praise from his departed father. "And Henry," Anna read on, "my younger son, your spirit has always been different. You have questioned, you have challenged, you have sought to find your own way in a world that often demanded conformity. I have watched you struggle with the constraints of royal life, and I have seen the pain in your eyes when you felt that your family did not understand your choices." Henry's composure began to crack slightly, and he wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Anna continued, "But there is something that both of you need to know, something that might help you understand not only each other, but also the choices I made throughout my reign. It concerns a decision I made long ago, a decision that affected both of your lives in ways you never realized." The room fell into absolute silence as Anna turned to the second page of the letter. She could feel the anticipation radiating from both of her brothers, and she knew that whatever came next would change their understanding of their family history forever. "Before I tell you this truth," Anna read, "I need you both to remember that everything I did, every decision I made, was motivated by love for you and for our family. Sometimes love requires difficult choices, and sometimes those choices create consequences that last for decades." Anna looked up again, seeing the mixture of anticipation and fear in her brothers' faces. She knew that the next part of the letter would be the most difficult to read and the most difficult for them to hear. But their father had entrusted her with this task, and she would see it through no matter how painful it might be. The silence in the blue drawing room stretched on as Anna prepared to read the words that would reveal the secret their father had carried for so many years. Outside, the London traffic continued its usual rhythm, but inside this room time seemed to stand still as 3 siblings prepared to learn a truth that would change everything they thought they knew about their family. Anna took a deep breath and continued reading from their father's letter, her voice growing stronger as she pushed through her own emotions. 28 years ago, when William was just 5 years old and Henry was 3, our family faced a crisis that very few people knew about. Your mother was going through an extremely difficult time, struggling with pressures that I, as her husband and your father, failed to fully understand or adequately support her through. William's brow furrowed with confusion. He had always been told that their mother's struggles came much later, during the more publicized, difficult period of their parents' marriage. Henry sat up straighter, suddenly very alert to every word. Anna continued, "During this time, your mother made a request that shocked me to my core. She asked if she could take both of you boys and leave the country for an extended period. Not permanently, but for what she described as a year of healing and perspective. She wanted to take you to her family's estate in Scotland, away from the pressures of royal life, away from the constant scrutiny of the press, and away from me." The admission hung heavy in the air. Both princes had never heard anything about such a plan. Their childhood memories were of growing up in various royal residences, attending carefully selected schools, and following the structured life that had been laid out for them. "I was torn," Anna read on. "Part of me understood her need for space and healing. Part of me recognized that the intensity of royal life was taking a toll on all of us. But another part of me, the part that was king first and father second, was terrified of what such a departure might mean for the monarchy, for the succession, and for the future of our family line." Henry's hands were clenched into fists now, and his jaw was tight. William remained perfectly still, but Anna could see the storm of emotions building behind his carefully controlled expression. "I made a choice that I have regretted every day since. I told your mother that I could not allow her to take you both away, that the crown required your presence, that your education and preparation for royal duties could not be interrupted. We argued for days, and during one of those arguments she said something that has haunted me ever since." Anna paused, knowing that the next part would be the most difficult to share. "She told me that if I would not let her take both of you, then she would choose to take only one. She said that she could not bear to leave both of her children behind, but she also could not continue living the life we had built without some fundamental change. She asked me to choose which of you would go with her and which would stay." William's face had gone completely pale, and Henry was now staring at Anna with an expression of disbelief and growing anger. "I refused to make such a choice," Anna continued reading. "I told her that separating you boys was unthinkable, that it would be harmful to both of you, and that we needed to find another solution. But your mother was desperate, and in her desperation, she made the choice herself." The letter went on to describe a conversation that had taken place late one night when both boys were sleeping. Their mother had come to their father with a decision that would shape the rest of their lives. "She told me that she wanted to take Henry with her. She said that William, as the heir, was already so embedded in the royal system that removing him would be more disruptive to his development than beneficial. But Henry, she argued, had always been more sensitive, more questioning of the rigid structure around us. She believed that giving him a year away from court life might actually help him find his place within the family more comfortably when he returned." Henry stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is impossible. I never went to Scotland for a year. I never lived with mother away from the family. What is he talking about?" Anna looked at her younger brother with deep compassion. "Henry, please sit down. There's more to the story." William, who had remained silent throughout this revelation, finally spoke. "Anna, I don't understand either. Our childhood, we were together. Henry was always here. We went to school together. We had lessons together. When did any of this happen?" Anna returned to the letter, her voice now barely above a whisper. "Here's what your father writes next. I convinced your mother to wait one more week before making any final decisions. I told her that I needed time to consider all the implications, to think about what would be best for everyone involved. During that week, I consulted with advisors, with family members, and with child psychology experts who understood the unique pressures faced by royal children. The letter continued to detail their father's agonizing week of consultations and soul-searching. He had spoken with former royal family members who had experienced similar pressures. He had researched the long-term effects of family separation on children. He had even spoken, in complete confidence, with child development specialists about the potential benefits and harms of the proposed arrangement. At the end of that week, Anna read, I made what I believed was the right decision for our family. I told your mother that I could not support separating our sons, but I also could not ignore her very real needs and struggles. Instead, I proposed that we arrange for extended private family time away from official duties, that we seek professional help for the pressures we were all facing, and that we commit to making significant changes in how we balanced royal obligations with family life. Henry had sat back down, but his agitation was obvious. So what happened? Did Mother agree to this compromise? Anna looked at both of her brothers before continuing. Your father writes that your mother initially agreed to try this alternative approach. They arranged for a month-long private retreat to Balmoral, with minimal staff and no official engagements. During this time, they attended family counseling sessions and worked with specialists who understood the unique challenges of royal family dynamics. The letter described what sounded like a turning point for their parents' marriage and for the family as a whole. Their father wrote about breakthrough conversations, about new understanding between him and their mother, and about a renewed commitment to putting family welfare above royal protocol when necessary. But then, Anna continued reading, something happened that changed everything again. Your mother received news that her own father was seriously ill, and she felt compelled to return to Scotland immediately to be with him. The difference was that now, instead of wanting to take one of you boys with her, she asked if I would be willing to bring the entire family to Scotland for an extended stay. This was the part of the story that began to align more closely with the brothers' actual memories. They both remembered spending significant time in Scotland during their childhood, though they had always been told it was simply for extended holidays and private family time. William leaned forward. I remember those trips to Scotland. Some of them lasted for months. We loved it there. Henry nodded slowly. Mother always seemed happier in Scotland, more relaxed, more like herself. Anna smiled slightly. Your father writes about those times too. He says they were some of the happiest periods of your childhood and of their marriage. But he also reveals something else. Something that explains why he felt compelled to write this letter. She turned to the final section of the letter, knowing that what came next would be the most shocking revelation of all. During one of our extended stays in Scotland, when William was 7 and Henry was 5, your mother came to me with a confession that changed my understanding of everything that had happened between us. She told me that her original request to take one of you away had never really been about giving you a better life outside of royal constraints. Both princes were now hanging on every word, sensing that they were about to learn something that would fundamentally change their understanding of their family history. She confessed that she had been testing me, Anna read, her voice filled with the same amazement that their father must have felt when he learned this truth. She wanted to see if I loved our children more than I loved the crown. She wanted to know if I would choose my family over my duty when forced to make an impossible decision. She said that my refusal to separate you boys, my insistence on finding a solution that kept our family together, had proven to her that despite all the pressures and constraints of royal life, I was a father first and a king second. The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. Henry was staring at Anna with his mouth slightly open, while William sat back in his chair as if he had been physically struck. She had been testing me all along, Anna continued reading, and according to her, I had passed the test. But more importantly, she said that watching me struggle with the impossible choice she had presented seeing how much the thought of separating our family had tormented me, had convinced her that we could work through any challenge as long as we remained committed to putting our love for each other above everything else. Anna reached the end of the second page, knowing that the final page would contain their father's reasoning for sharing this story and his specific messages for each of his sons. The weight of what she had already shared was enormous, and she could see that both William and Henry were struggling to process the implications of what they had learned. The afternoon light had shifted in the blue drawing room, casting longer shadows across the ornate furniture and priceless paintings that adorned the walls. In this room, where so many important family decisions had been made over the years, three siblings were grappling with a truth that recontextualized everything they thought they knew about their parents' relationship and their own childhood experiences. Anna turned to the final page of their father's letter, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared to read his concluding thoughts and personal messages to each of his sons. "Now you may wonder," Anna continued reading, "why I am telling you this story after all these years, and why I waited until after my death to share it with you. The truth is that your mother and I agreed to keep this between ourselves, believing that the knowledge of her test and my response to it was something private between husband and wife. But as I write this letter, knowing that my time is limited, I realize that this story contains lessons that you both need to hear." Henry had been quiet for several minutes, but now he spoke up, his voice thick with emotion. "All this time, I thought, I always felt like there was something I didn't understand about our family. Like there were conversations happening that I wasn't part of, decisions being made that affected me, but that I never knew about." William nodded slowly. "I felt it too, Henry, especially as we got older. There was always this sense that mother and father had some deeper understanding between them, something that went beyond what they shared with us." Anna continued reading their father's words. "William, my eldest son, I want you to understand that the burden of being heir to the throne is something I never took lightly when it came to your well-being. Every decision I made about your upbringing, every constraint I placed on your childhood, was weighed against my love for you as my son. When your mother tested me with the possibility of losing you, even temporarily, I realized how much of my identity was tied up in being your father, not just your king." The personal message to William continued for several more sentences, detailing their father's pride in the man William had become, his admiration for how William had handled the pressures of royal life, and his confidence in William's ability to be both a devoted king and a loving father when his time came. "And Henry," Anna read, "my younger son, I need you to know that your mother's choice to name you as the child she would take with her was not a reflection of favoritism, but rather a recognition of your unique spirit and your need for different kinds of support than your brother required. She saw in you a sensitivity and a questioning nature that she feared might be crushed by the rigid expectations of royal life if not properly nurtured." Henry's eyes filled with tears as Anna continued reading his father's words. "Your journey has been different from William's, and it was always meant to be different. Your mother and I both recognized that your happiness and your sense of purpose would come from finding your own way to serve, your own way to contribute to the family and to the world. We never wanted you to feel like a spare or like a secondary consideration. You were always meant to be Henry first, Prince second." The letter went on to address the growing distance between the two brothers, something their father had observed with increasing concern in his final years. "I am writing this letter because I can see that you two are drifting apart, and I believe that part of that distance comes from misunderstandings about your places in the family and about the love your mother and I had for each of you. William, you have sometimes carried the weight of believing that you must be perfect, that any struggle or uncertainty on your part reflects poorly on the institution you will someday lead. Henry, You have sometimes carried the weight of believing that your differences from William make you less valuable to the family. Anna paused to wipe her own tears before continuing. Both of these beliefs are wrong. William, your humanity, your struggles, and your growth as a person are what will make you a great king. The crown needs a leader who understands the full range of human experience, not one who has been protected from it. And Henry, your independence, your willingness to question and to forge your own path, brings a perspective to our family that is invaluable. The monarchy needs people who can bridge the gap between royal tradition and the modern world. The next section of the letter contained their father's specific hopes for how his sons would support each other in the years to come. I want you both to know that the test your mother put me through all those years ago taught me something essential about love and family. Real love doesn't ask people to choose between their principles and their hearts. Real love finds ways to honor both. I hope that as you navigate your own relationships, your own challenges, and your own service to the crown and to the people, you will remember this lesson. Henry stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the gardens where they had played as children. Anna, is there more? Yes, she replied softly. There's one final section addressed to all of us together. Anna read the concluding paragraphs of their father's letter, in which he expressed his hopes for the future of their family and his specific request that they honor his memory by supporting each other through whatever challenges lay ahead. My final request to all three of my children is this: do not let the pressures of royal life, the expectations of the public, or the constraints of tradition divide you from each other. You are siblings first, royals second. You are each other's greatest allies in a world that often misunderstands the sacrifices you make in service to others. The letter concluded with personal words of love for each of his children, and a request that they remember him not just as their king, but as their father who loved them unconditionally. When Anna finished reading, the blue drawing room fell into a profound silence. The weight of their father's words, the revelation of their mother's test, and the understanding of how much their parents had struggled to balance love and duty created an atmosphere of shared emotional intensity. William was the first to speak. I had no idea. All these years I thought I understood our family, our history, the choices they made. But this changes everything. Henry turned from the window, his face streaked with tears. It explains so much, though. The way Mother always seemed to understand when I questioned things, when I pushed back against expectations. She knew what it felt like to feel constrained by royal life, because she had felt it herself. Anna carefully folded the letter and placed it back in its envelope. Father wanted us to know this story because he believed it would help us understand each other better. He was worried about the distance growing between you two, and he hoped that knowing how much he and Mother fought to keep our family together would inspire you to do the same. The three siblings spent the next hour talking about their childhood memories in light of this new information. They discussed moments that had confused them at the time, but now made perfect sense. They talked about their parents' relationship and how much strength it must have taken to navigate the challenges they had faced. William eventually moved closer to Henry, and for the first time in months, the two brothers embraced. I'm sorry, William said. I'm sorry for all the times I didn't understand why you needed to make different choices. I'm sorry for making you feel like your path was less important than mine. Henry returned his brother's embrace with equal emotion. And I'm sorry for pulling away instead of talking to you about how I was feeling. I'm sorry for letting my need for independence create distance between us. Anna watched her brothers reconcile with tears of relief. Their father's final request was being fulfilled in this very moment, as his sons rediscovered their bond as brothers rather than just as heir and spare. As the afternoon turned into evening, the three siblings made a pact to honor their father's memory by maintaining the family unity that their parents had fought so hard to preserve. They agreed to meet regularly, to be honest about their struggles and challenges, and to support each other in their different paths of service. Henry made the decision to return to more active participation in family events and royal duties, not because he felt obligated, but because he now understood that his unique perspective was valued and needed. William committed to being more open about his own struggles, and to seeking Henry's counsel on matters where his brother's different viewpoint might be helpful. The letter that Anna had discovered hidden in their father's study became the catalyst for a new chapter in their family's story. Instead of continuing to drift apart under the pressures of their different roles and responsibilities, the three siblings chose to honor their parents' legacy by putting family love above all other considerations. In the weeks that followed, the change in the family dynamic was noticeable to everyone around them. Staff members remarked on the renewed warmth between the brothers. The press noted their increased collaboration on charitable endeavors. Most importantly, the three siblings felt a sense of peace and purpose that had been missing from their lives for far too long. Their father's final request had been granted. Through understanding the depth of their parents' love and commitment to family unity, William, Henry, and Anna had found their way back to each other. The test that their mother had given their father decades earlier had ultimately become a gift to the next generation, teaching them that true strength comes not from rigid adherence to duty, but from the ability to balance responsibility with love, tradition with understanding, and service with family bonds. The letter remained in Anna's possession, but its message lived on in the renewed relationships between the three siblings and in their commitment to facing whatever challenges lay ahead as a united family, just as their parents had always hoped they would.